हस्य वसतेर् महालोके प्रकृतिता योगानां प्रमाणेन अयुतानां सतत्रयम्. स एव लोकवरः. That is finished right now, Prabhu?
Mataji?
Which one now?
57 is 57 you didn't read, Mataji. 57 is still there.
57.
Yeah, it is on the screen, Mataji.
Okay, last two line, right? Ayutani cha panchashat sheshasthanam manoharam.
$58. Can someone read?
Yeah, Prabhuji, I will try. Hare Krishna. स एव लोकवाराः कथितस्तु स्वयं प्रभ लोकोऽयमण्डसंलग्न सर्वादस्ता मनोहर वरारूपी भगवान् यचेत रूपधरो वसत्. टेक्स्ट 59. तस्योपरिष्टार दरपरास् तावानेव प्रमाणत पित भौमस्तथास्तु गभस्ति तलसंज्ञक तत्रास्ते भगवान् विष्णु देवो हयशिरोधर शशांक सप्तशंका शांत कुंभ विभूषण. टेक्स्ट 60. कृष्णीगर्भस्य वसति ब्रह्मणो भवनोपरि. टेक्स्ट 61. वासस्तस्त्र प्रलम्बारे यत्रैवागरिपो भवेत्. टेक्स्ट 62. एतस्यैवा सम्भूतोऽयं पाताले वसति स्वयं नित्यं तालध्वजो वाग्मि वनमाली विभूषित धारायिजरस्यं नित्यं रत्नचित्रं कर्णावलिं लाङ्गली मुसली खण्डगी नीलाम्बर विभूषित.
Krishna Prabhu. Can I recite, Prabhu? Hare Krishna.
Yes, Mataji, please.
ब्रह्मलोको परिस्तच्च हरे लोको विराजते. Verse 64. स्वर्लोके वसतिर्विष्णुर्वैकुण्ठस्य महात्मः ततः वैकुण्ठलोके च स्वयं हविष्कृतो हि यः अजितस्य निवशस्तु ध्रुवलोके समर्थितः भुवलोके तु वसतिर्वामनस्य महात्मनः. Text 66. त्रिविक्रमस्य वसति तपोलोके प्रकीर्तितां ततस्य ब्रह्मलोकस्थो दिव्यो नारायण ब्रह्मलोको परिस्तच्च निवासो अनेन निर्मितः हरिवंशे सुरेन्द्रेण कथितो यशुरर्षये. Hare Krishna.
Last slide. Slokas.
Can I do, Prabhu?
Yes, ma'am.
Verse 4.68. Tata hi idam bhaktva madiyam tu bhagavan vishnuna kritam upari lokanam adhikam bhuvanam muneti. 4.69. Sarve sam avataranam paravyomni chakasati nivasah paramascharya iti shastre nirupyate. 4.70 तथा हि पद्मे वैकुण्ठ भुवन नित्ये निवसन्ति महोज्ज्वलः अवतरः तत्र मत्स्यकूर्मादयोऽखिलहिति इति अवतार तत् स्थान निरूपणम्.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you, Mataji, for reciting this slokas nicely. So today we are going to conclude this chapter. Just to as a small recap of what actually we are trying to discuss, what we are trying to understand from Srila Bhagavatamrta, so that we'll have continuity since we had little gap in between. So in Srila Bhagavatamrta, as we all know, that written by Srila Rupa Goswami, and in this particular scripture, he is trying to establish the supremacy of the Lord Krishna by revealing various hidden secrets. Hidden secrets, I mean hidden secrets from the revealed scriptures. So there are so many scriptures who discuss about the glories of the Supreme Lord and establish the supremacy of the Supreme Lord. And Srila Rupa Goswami is bringing all those confidential information revealed in the different scriptures at one place to highlight the supremacy of the Lord Krishna. And he established the fact that he is Swayam Bhagavan, and there are so many incarnations or expansions of Krishna. So he discussed in very, very detailed, which even Srimad Bhagavatam was not covered. So because Srimad Bhagavatam, purpose of Srimad Bhagavatam was different, so some of these topics were not covered in Srimad Bhagavatam. The whole, because Parshit Maharaj had only 7 days time, so a very condensed version of all the Vedanta Sara. So Srila Sukadeva Goswami has given to Parshit Maharaj. Of course, the purpose was that to establish that what a dying person should do when he is leaving the body. So that was the purpose. So Rupa Goswami, as we discussed in first 3 chapters and the present chapter we are discussing, we had a very detailed explanation of different expansions of the Lord, like Lord's Swayam Rupa, Tadekatma Rupa, Avesha incarnations. That was in the first chapter. And second chapter, we discussed about various Purusha avatars, Karanadosha Vishnu, Garbhodosha Vishnu, and Kshirodosha Vishnu, how they expanded, from whom they're expanding. All these things were discussed by Rupa Goswami in chapter 2. And also we discussed about Guna Avataras, in charge of 3 different modes of material nature. So how the Lord expanded into Vishnu, Shiva and Brahma. So those things we discussed in chapter 2. And chapter 3 was again very vast description of various Leela Avataras of the Lord. We discussed in detail, so Rupa Goswami has explained. And the 4th chapter, which we are concluding today, we discussed a very beautiful description of different Manvantara incarnations of the Lord. And we also discussed at the same time different Manus, who are the Manus and what are the incarnations during Manu's period of Manus. All these things we discussed in this chapter, and also we discussed about the various Yuga avatars. So each Yuga has a particular Yuga Dharma, and Lord appears to establish the Yuga Dharma of that particular age. So Lord, he comes in the Yuga Avatara in each Yuga. So that point also we discussed in this chapter. So now we are continuing from there. We are going to discuss different abodes or different residential places of these incarnations, or some of these incarnations, because all the incarnations were not described by Rupa Goswami. Some of the incarnations were described, and he is establishing that even these incarnations, they are not only in spiritual abode, spiritual planet, but even in material world also, material universe also, these incarnations have their residential places where they live in this material world. So that Rupa Goswami is explaining in this slokas, in coming next 17 to 18 slokas. is going to explain, which we try to cover today. So in verse 52, Rupa Goswami says that according to the vision of revealed scriptures, we will write about some of the residential palaces manifested by some of these incarnations in the material universe. This evidence comes from the statements of Vishnu Dharmottara Purana and other Puranas. So basically, the most important scripture which Rupa Goswami is relying or is covering or taking out the hidden information is Vishnu Dharmottara Purana. So some of the other references also he is adding. So he is going to explain in coming slokas where these are some of these incarnations, because every incarnation has their abode in spiritual world, and also when they come to this material world, they also have their abodes in this material world, and only some of those incarnations were described by Rupa Goswami. And also very clearly, if you read, it says that right some of the residential places. So it is not that all the residential places. Each incarnation may have more than one residential place. So some of the residential places manifested by some of the incarnations is what we are going to discuss. So, for example, above that region is another region of same size with a reddish background. This is Mahatala, the fifth Patala region, where in a wonderful lake, 100,000 yojanas across, lives Lord Hari in his Kurma form. Now, it is explained that we discussed about Lord, different, Leela Avtaras, that Lord appears as a Kurma form, Matsya form, Varaha form, all these things we discussed. Now, when they come to this material world, whether they come, finish the Leela and go back, or some of the past tense happens, they come, they finish the Leela and they go back. They will not, they stay in this material world. But some of the incarnations, they reside in this material world also. So, if they reside in this material world also, where they are residing. So, even some of the scriptures, like most of the scriptures are silent on this, but Rupa Goswami has taken a pain to pull out all this information from the hidden scriptures, like some of them, he used a reference in Vishnu Dharmottara Purana, he is going to cover. Now, in verse 53, he says that, the above that religion is another region. So above that religion here he says he is continuing, because this reference is taken from Vishnu Dharmottara Purana. For us, we'll focus on what is that above that religion, another religion. That another religion is what we are more concerned, because that is where the Kurma Lord in the form of Kurma is residing. So he says this is a Mahatala. So this is a fifth Patala region where the wonderful lake 100,000 yojanas across leaves the Lord Hari in his Kurma form. So those who attended this, we took one seminar of Vedic cosmology on a few months ago. So there we discussed like how different planetary systems are formed, and importance of each planetary system, and below the Bhuloka, again, there are 7 planetary systems, are there, Patal Lokas. So all these things we discussed. So from this slide, we can understand that below Bhuloka, we have Atala, Vitala, Sutala, Talatala, Mahatala, Rasatala, and Patala. So this is Mahatala is what we are discussing, where further close up of zoom version of this slide, Mahatala planet. It is mentioned that this particular, there is one huge lake is there. That lake is, it's mentioned that it is 100,000 yojanas across. So that lake is a vast lake, 1,000 yojanas lake. In that lake, in the Mahatala planet, in Mahatala Loka, there's a lake which is 1,000 yojanas in the width or area. So in that lake, Kurma, Lord in the form of Kurma is residing. Now the question may come, why he is residing in somewhere in Mahatala? We can, because no explanation was given why Lord is residing in that particular planet, but we can understand that Lord it's all Lord's creation. So he wants to reside in some of the places, in this material world. And it is also told that Lord is not only residing in one particular place in material world, he resides the same time, simultaneously resides in different places, even this material world also. Again, Lord has got his original abode for many of the incarnations in Vaikuntha planets also. So this Mahatala planet, which is a reddish in color, as you see in this picture. So there is 1000 yojanas of a lake is there, and in that lake, Lord Kurma is residing. So in verse 54, above that is another region of the same size, where there is a divine lake, 3 yojanas across. Sorry, it is not 3 yojanas, it's 300 yojanas it is. There's a typo. So 300 yojanas across. In that lake lives the Supreme Lord Hari in his Matsya form. So this also taken from Vishnu Dharmottara Purana in 1, 4, 30 and 33. This description is given about the location of Lord in the form of Matsya, where he is residing in this. So we can see again here, there is a above Mahatala, there is a Talatala planet, which is actually what referring to. So this Talatala planet is again 300,000 yojanas lake is there, and which is bigger than the lake in Mahatala planet, Mahatala Loka. So in this particular lake, where in Talatala Loka, the Lord is residing in the form of Matsya. So this is description was given in verse 54. And verse 55, Narayana, the friend of Nara, lives in the place called Badrinatha. So where is this Badrinatha? So who is Narayana? So we are not talking to Narayana of Vaikuntha planets. We are talking about Narayana of Narayana. So he is residing in the place called Badrinath. So it means he is actually, Rupa Goswami explains that he is actually residing in Badrikashrama, which is in this earthly planet. So those many of you might have visited Badrinath, Badrikashrama, so might have seen this place also. So this is a place where Narayana of Nara. So it means both Nara and Narayana both are residing in that particular place. So that is in verse 55. So in verse 56, Naravaraha residence 3 million yojanas in circumstance is said to be on Maharloka. Now, Varaha, as we saw, there are again different Varaha expansions, Varaha incarnations we saw in the 2 different Manus period. So we'll not go into that. We already discussed in the previous sessions. So one particular Varaha's incarnation, he is residing in Maharloka. So what is this Maharloka? So we all know again from, if you go back to Vedic cosmology seminar, we discussed there where Maharloka is there. Maharloka is there above Swargaloka. It is again from this earthly circular disk. From there, Mount Meru we discussed, and above Mount Meru, there is actually, it shows from this slide it appears that Swargaloka is touching by Mount Meru. No, there is a huge gap. So above Swargaloka there is Maharloka. In that Maharloka, it is explained that 3 million yojanas in circumference is said to be on Maharloka. So Varaha's residence on this Maharloka is resident itself with 3 million yojanas. So you can imagine what opulent place Lord Varaha's residence would be in Maharloka. So this is beyond our imagination. But those who read or heard Bhagavatamrta, they would have covered, they would have understood about Lord Varaha's pastimes even in Maharloka also. As Babu Kumara travels, so he encounters, he experiences various incidents. So there again discussion about Lord Varaha in Maharloka was given. So we'll not go into that. So for now we understand that we are very briefly understanding where some of the residences of some of the incarnations of the Lord in this material world is given in the scriptures. So this is Maharloka, is residence of Lord Varaha. Now the question comes, Lord Varaha, as we saw, there are 2 different Varahas are there, different Varaha incarnations are there. So one is a reddish color, other one is a whitish color. So then somebody may ask a question, which Varaha we are talking about here. So that we'll get clarification in the next sloka where Rupa Goswami is explaining. So the next about charming like Lord Seshas is 500,000 yojanas in circumstance. So this is next abode of the Lord. Next abode of which incarnation we are discussing? He explains in verse 58. Known as Varaha Loka, this effulgent, attractive world sits below all the other planets and touches the shell of the universe. Here, the Supreme Lord has taken up residence in his white Varaha form. Again, in the Vishnu Dharmottara Purana, it is explained. So again, from this, it bit confusing. Which part of the universe he is residing? This white Varaha form is residing. So you can see here in a Patala Loka, if you see down, which is just above the covering of the ocean. So this is area where this Varaha is residing. This is almost in a edge of this particular universe. So yeah, so it's mentioned that known as Varaha Loka, this self-effulgent attractive world sits below all the other planets and touches the shell of universe. So it's mentioned it is even below the Patal Loka. It's not even Patal Loka. It's below Patal Loka, above the covering of the universe. It means that it is almost touching the covering of universe. From this slide, it's very difficult to understand. There is we feel that there is absolutely there is no gap between any of these words. There is a gap for approximately, if I remember correct, something 9,000 yojanas of a gap between each of these lokas. So below Patal Loka, there is an abode which is residence of Varaha in his whitish form. So Lord comes in a two different Manus period, as we discussed in the previous sessions. So when he comes in a white form, so after completing his pastime, he will go to his abode in this material world, which is below the Pataloka. Again, there is no clarity or there is no explanation of why in this particular Pataloka he is residing. So it is just references were taken from Vishnu Dharmottara Purana. So maybe at some stage, if we come across Vishnu Dharmottara Purana, we'll discuss about that. But for now, it is not that important. That is not required. So just to understand that where these incarnations are residing in this material world, Rupa Goswami is describing. So here he says that this verse begins with Vishnu Dharmottara Purana, Vishnu Dharmottara's description of the abode of Lord Varaha in his, I went back to verse 57. So verse 57, if we go back to verse 57, it is explained that, verse 56, Naravara 3 million yojanas in circumference is said to be on Maharloka. So this particular Varaha's expansion is a four-legged Varaha expansion, and Lord resides there. And whereas this one is Lord in the form of white Varaha form. So this is in verse 58. So according to Vishnu Dharmottara, the abode of this is a four-legged. So four-legged Lord Varaha lies below the 7 Patala regions and planet of Kalangi Rudra. So this planet is called Kalangi Rudra, and this is below all the 7 Patala planets. So here is the residence of the Lord in his white Varaha form. So this is where the Lord is residing in white Varaha form. Here he is in four-legged form, whereas other Varaha is in a half boar and half man form. So that was in Maharloka he is residing. So in verse 59, above that is Patala region, there is another of the same size called Gabasitala. This fourth region has a ground of yellow color. There Lord Vishnu lives in his Hayashira form, as effulgent as hundreds of moons and adorned with golden ornaments. So we discussed in Leela Avatar in chapter 3 about a Lord coming in a Hayagriva form. It's also called Hayashira. Hayashira means the head of a horse. So Hayagriva form. That particular form also has a residence in this material world, so which is you can see here. Yeah. So this is above Patal Loka. So it is there. You can see between Patala and Rasatala. So there is one abode of the Lord, which is not shown in this slide, but he resides. This Hayashira form resides in this particular planet. So that is explained in verse 59. So this abode is called Gabastitala. So this is Gabastitala planet is explained in Vishuddharmottara Purana 1.4.27 and 2.8. So Krishnagarbha's residence is above Lord Brahma's planet. So who is Krishnagarbha? Can someone remember from those who attended?
Prishni and Sutapa son. Who is Yagna?
What was his past name? We discussed about Krishnagarbha's past name. What he did.
Yagna, he is the Yagna, na Prabhu. Means when
No.
Indra was not there, he was become Indra, correct?
No.
No.
Krishnagarbha is different.
Oh.
Anybody else remember who is Krishnagarbha? He is one of the incarnate Leela Avataras we discussed. Krishnagarbha is the one who has blessed Dhruva Maharaj, who appeared when Dhruva was praying for the Lord. It is not the Lord who came from Vaikuntha planet. Rupa Goswami explains that it is Krishnagarbha. Lord Hari, in the form of Krishnagarbha, he comes and gives boon to Dhruva Maharaj. So he is the Krishnagarbha. So his abode is explained in verse 50, verse 60, that his residence is above Brahma's planet. So he is there above Brahmaloka. So above Brahmaloka, which is not visible to human eyes. Even Brahmaloka is not visible generally, but personalities like Gopa Kumara could see. But Krishnagarbha's abode, it is not described even in Bhagavatamrta. So his abode, Krishnagarbha's abode is there above Brahmaloka. So that is explained.
Can I ask one question, Prabhuji?
Yes.
Prabhuji, this above the Brahmaloka means you mean the Vaikuntha of this material verse, right? Material world where Kshirodak Sai Vishnu is residing. That and this is different, or both are different?
Kshirodak Sai Vishnu is residing above all these universes. We are talking about within this universe.
No, there is in the picture we see.
We are talking about Lord Vishnu. Kshirodak Sai Vishnu.
Okay, there Saptarshi Mandala, and then when there is another Vaikuntha, that and this Krishnagarbha is different, correct, Prabhuji?
There are so many Vaikuntha planets created by the Lord in even this material world. I don't know which Vaikuntha planet is being referred here.
Okay, Prabhuji.
Because that is explained even coming slokas also we see that Lord has created different Vaikuntha planets even in this material world. Different Vaikuntha planets, different Sargolokas is created and he is residing there.
Okay,
So,
okay, Prabhuji.
of course, we can understand that wherever Lord is residing, that becomes a Vaikuntha planet.
Yes. Okay, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Hare Krishna,
No,
Prabhuji.
Hare
It is different from Satyaloka, Prabhuji.
Mataji?
It is different from
Satyaloka is one
Satya.
of- Yes, Satyaloka is Brahma's planet.
So Brahmaloka and Satyaloka same.
Yeah, in this particular concept, particular perspective, Brahmaloka and Satyaloka are same. In some other different perspectives, Brahmaloka means it is a abode of Brahmajyoti from one perspective, and from another perspective, Brahmaloka is also considered as a Vaikuntha planet is considered as Brahmaloka. So different perspectives it is stored, but in this perspective, it is Brahmaloka is Satyaloka.
Okay.
The highest realm in
Prabhuji,
this material.
The
Yes, Mataji.
Mataji was referring to Shwetadvip, I think, Kshirodaksha Vishnu, where he resides. So where is it exactly in this,
No,
Prabhuji?
Kshirodaksha Vishnu, as I remember, he is residing in Dhruva planet.
Shwetadvip. Yeah,
Dhruva
Shwetadvip.
planet.
He is in Shwetadvip, which is, and Dhruva planet is a satellite to the
Yeah,
Shwetadvip.
we'll see where Dhruva planet is also there. That also we'll see in coming slides.
Hare Krishna.
Dhruva planet is not actually above Brahmaloka. It is in a different place.
Okay, Hare Krishna Prabhu. Then he created the Dhruva Loka then.
Who, Mataji?
Prishnigarbha.
Yeah, he has given that abode to. He is there. Lord is there in that particular planet also, but his residence is in Vishnigarbha. This abode where he is residing. This is different from Dhruvaloka. Dhruvaloka also is created by the Lord and given to Dhruva to rule.
But he is not residing here. He doesn't.
He is there also. The Lord is as Rupa Goswami explains that these are the sum of the residences of some of the incarnations. When he says some of the residences, he means to say that there are many residences for the Lord in the same form. But we'll see in coming slides or coming slokas also that some of the incarnations have more than one residence. That also is explained by. So Dhruva planet is also a residence of the Lord.
Okay.
And he is, like you can say, it is a summer guest house or winter guest house. How we have, for material people, they reside in different guest houses. In the UK, one guest house, and some other place, another guest house, and they go.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, I had heard from His Holiness Bhanu Maharaj that actually Dhruva planet and Shwetadvip are two different planets, and Dhruva planet is like a satellite to the Shwetadvipa where Kshirodaksha Vishnu resides.
Maybe Maharaj is told, then it must be true.
Thank you.
Dvaloka is in spiritual world, is it, Prabhu?
No, Dhruvaloka is the material world, Mataji.
Oh.
But that is a place which will never annihilate.
Okay.
But Mataji, some of the purports Prabhupada has explained. I will just try to recollect those purports. He explained very clearly that Dhruvaloka is abode of Kshirodaksha Vishnu. So some of the purports of Srila Prabhupada it is mentioned.
Yes, Prabhu. So that
because he
was
wanted the kingdom more than his grandfather. So he was blessed like that, no? Dhruva Maharaj had a desire that he wanted a kingdom
that
bigger than
planet was given by the Lord. So, and also Prabhupada explains that this is the abode of Kshirodaksha Vishnu. That is Shwetadvipa. This is Prabhupada explained in some of the purports. I'll take out those purports and I'll post it. It is a Prabhupada purports are very clear.
Yes, Prabhuji, we had asked Prabhuji that Lord resides in Dhruva planet. So he had explained that they are not, both are not the same planets, but Dhruva planet is like a satellite to the Shwetadvipa, like that he had explained. So yeah, that I don't know from what is the reference, but yeah, he had explained like that.
Okay, maybe Maharaj is authority in this topic. So we'll go by Maharaj. Thank you, Mataji. And I'll also post that purport of Srila Prabhupada where he mentions. So maybe if someone has access to Bhautani Mataji, someone has access to Maharaj, so you can get clarification.
Okay.
So this is verse 60. He explains about Krishnagarbha's residence. The enemy of Pralamba resides in the same place as the enemy of Agha. Can someone explain what we are talking about here?
Balram.
And
Ram.
Balram and
Krishna.
Yeah, thank you. So these are the abodes. So here he explains about Goloka Vrindavan in this material world, which is an earthly planet. So means what he is saying is that Sri Krishna resides in Gokula and the surrounding areas, and there also resides Lord Balrama. Indeed, the two of them are inseparable. So he's talking about Vrindavan. So here, on this earthly planet, where Lord appeared and did pastimes in Vrindavan. So there, Balram and Krishna are residing eternally in this material world. So this is what Rupa Goswami is explaining in verse 61. And in verse 62, he says that a partial expansion of Lord Balram always resides on Patal Loka, decorated with garlands of forest flowers and always bearing excellent jewels atop his many hoods. He carries a plow, club, and a sword, wears a blue garments, and has a flag marked with a palm tree. He is an eloquent speaker. That also again Vishnu Dharmanta Purana, it is explained. Now, again, it may look confusing at where exactly is this location. So we all know where Lord is, Adishesh is holding all the universes on his hood. So this is a place where if you go back and see, the partial expansion of Balram always resides in Patal Loka. So it resides on Patal Loka means here it is below Patal Loka we are talking about, decorated with garlands of forest flowers and always bearing excellent jewels atop his many hoods. He carries a plow, club, and a sword, wears blue garments, and has a flag marked with a palm tree. He is an eloquent speaker. So this is a place where the whole universe, or the universes, is on his hood. So that is a place of residence of Adishesha, who is a partial expansion of the Lord. Now here the point mentioned is he is a eloquent speaker. So what kind of a speaker he is explained by Rupa Goswami. Says that Shesha, who holds earth on one of his hoods, is an Avesha expansion of Lord Balram. He shows his eloquence while he speaks Srimad Bhagavatam to Sanat Kumara and his brothers. So 4 Kumaras when he was explaining Srimad Bhagavatam. So that reference was taken by Rupa Goswami to say that he is an eloquent speaker. So this is a place of Adishesh residence. So above Brahma shines the planet of Lord Hari. So here is what again one more reference of Vaikuntha planet. Above Brahma Loka shines the planet of Hari. So which planet we are talking about? Which Lord Hari we are talking about? Again explains here that Hari is, if you those who remember, again we discussed in Manvantara incarnations. In the 4th Manvantara ruled by Tamasa, Hari appeared. In this Manvantara, the Supreme Lord Vishnu, known by the name Hari, took birth from the womb of Harini, the wife of Harimeda. Hari saved his devotee Gajendra, the king of elephants, from the mouth of crocodile. So we are talking about this particular Hari. So this Hari resides the place above Brahmaloka. So above Brahmaloka, there is another, wherever Lord resides is a Vaikuntha planet. Again, all this about what we are discussing becomes Vaikuntha planet. But this particular abode was created specially by the Lord, and he resides there. This abode is above Brahmaloka. And this Hari is a description was given in chapter 4, verse 9. Those who have the access, you can read this particular sloka, ninth sloka of chapter 4, the same chapter we are in. So there about Lord Hari was described. So he is the one who saves Gajendra. So Gajendra is not, this Hari is not coming from Vaikuntha planet to save Gajendra. He is coming from this particular abode where we just now discussed. This particular abode is above Brahmaloka. From there he comes. He is residing there. So he appears during the 4th Manvantara period ruled by Tamasa. So he appears, and this is abode of Lord Hari. So in verse 64, Lord Vishnu, the great ruler of Vaikuntha, also lives in Swargaloka. On the Vaikuntha planet, he personally revealed within this material world. So he also lives in Swargaloka. So there are so many explanations are there, like which form of the Lord is residing in Swargaloka? Can someone add? Which form of the Lord, which incarnation of the Lord is residing in Swargaloka?
Vamana. Vamana?
Again, Vamana has many more expansions, many more residences also. That also is explained in this sloka and coming sloka. So Lord Ajita has established his residence on Dhruvaloka. So Dhruvaloka is a abode where the question will come, who is Ajita? So again, we discussed in this chapter 4, in verse 14. Those who can check back at later, they can see the description of Ajita was given. The 6th Manvantara, ruled by Chakshusa, Ajita appeared. The 6th Manvantara, Lord Vishnu, the master of universe, appeared in his partial expansion. He is begotten by Vairaja in the womb of wife Sambhuti, and his name was Ajita. So this Ajita has appeared during the 6th Manvantara period, who is Chakshusa Manu. So he appeared. What was the role of Ajita? Can somebody recollect what we discussed in chapter 4, verse 14 and 15? What is the Leela of Ajita? What he did?
He moved the
Because
mountain, Mandara mountain.
Mandara mountain. So Ajita, he actually expanded a different. He took different roles. So he actually appeared and residing in Dhruvaloka. It is very confusing for us to, or not confusing. It is bewildering for us to understand. The Shastra says that he appeared and residing in Dhruvaloka, and he is the one who expanded himself when the churning of the ocean of milk was happening. Ajita produced nectar for the demigods. In the form of a tortoise, he moved here and there, carrying his back the great mountain known as Mandara. So there he expanded a different, he took a different roles when this particular pastime is happening. The most prominent one was the tortoise. He took the role of a tortoise, and so tortoise has got a different abode that we saw, and Ajita has a different abode. So each expansion has a different abode. So Ajita is residing in Dhruvaloka, and the exalted Lord Vamana lives in Bhorloka. So if you see from this slide, where is Dhruvaloka? Dhruvaloka is a planet which is below Maharloka. So all the Satyaloka, Maharloka, Janaloka, Tapoloka, Satyaloka, below that Dhruvaloka is there. So this point also we discussed during our Vedic cosmology seminar. So in this particular Dhruvaloka is the residence of Lord Ajita. And Lord Vamana is residing in Bhurloka. So Lord Vamana, if you see above Bhurloka is there, where Rakshasas and ghosts. Then somebody may have a question where what Lord Vamana is doing in the abode of Rakshasas and ghosts. That description, explanation is not given. Maybe Vishnu Dharmottara Purana is covered in detail. I don't know. So for now, we understand that Lord Vamana is residing in Bhurloka. So Lord Trivikrama is said to be reside on Apoloka. Now Trivikrama, who is Lord Trivikrama?
Who measured the universe in 3 steps?
So again, who is that? Lord Vamana. So
Vamana.
one hand we say that Lord Vamana is residing in the Bhurloka, and immediately next sloka 66, he says that Lord Trivikrama is said to be residing in Tapoloka, as well as in the divine Narayana Ashrama of Brahmaloka, and the abode he was constructed for himself above Brahmaloka. So he is residing in 4 different abodes at the same time. So it is very bewildering for us to understand. Just accept what is given in the scriptures. So Lord Trivikrama Vamana is residing in Tapoloka also, and we saw here he is residing in Bhuvarloka also, and as well as the divine Narayana Ashrama of Brahmaloka. Brahmaloka is an ashrama called Narayana Ashrama. Brahmaloka he is residing, and he constructed for himself a planet above, which is above Brahmaloka. So that is again considered as heavenly planets also. That is where he is residing. Now somebody must question why that is heavenly planets. That is explanation is given in the next sloka. So he is residing here also. We see Satyaloka. Also he is residing. Now in Harivamsha, this question is answered like what he is doing, why he constructed another abode for himself above Brahmaloka is explained in verse 67. So in Harivamsha, the king of demigods speaks the following to the sage among the demigods. So he explains, Indra is explaining about this particular aspect, why he is constructed a place of abode in above Brahmaloka. O powerful sage, Lord destroyed my planet and then created a better one above all the other planets. Someone try to relate why Lord Vishnu destroyed Indra's planet, when it happened?
During Bali Maharaj pastime.
Yes, exactly. So during Bali Maharaj's pastime, Lord extended his foot. He is trying to occupy the whole universe. So in that process, he hit that Swarga, all the heavenly planets, and got destroyed. So to cover up that, he created another heavenly planet and is given to Indra. That is a place again where he is residing. That is above, is mentioned here. He created a better one above all the other planets, means above Brahmaloka, is that's what we discussed here. So it's mentioned he has constructed for himself above Brahmaloka. That is what we are talking here. So this is what Lord is explaining here, that Indra is explaining here that Vishnu destroyed my planet and then created a better one above all the other planets. So in verse 69, it is mentioned that the scriptures inform us that Lord's avatars possess supremely wonderful abodes in spiritual sky. So Lord's all this most of the incarnations of the Lord have their abodes the spiritual sky, and also when he comes to do particular lila in this material world, he also creates some of his abodes in some of the places, and each incarnation may have more than one abode, and some of incarnations may not have any abodes also. So this is what scripture says. So in verse 70, thus in Padma Purana, all of the Lord's brilliantly effulgent avatars, Matsya, Kurma, and others, dwell always in eternal world of Vaikuntha. So they all have their permanent abodes, whereas in this material world, what they have is a temporary abodes, which when annihilation takes place, when Lord, all the incarnations goes back into the spiritual world, so all they will permanently reside again. Of course, they are always permanently residing in the spiritual world. They those abodes are considered as permanent abodes, and this is about what we discuss in the material world. It is a purely temporary when he comes to perform this particular pastimes in different leelas. So this ends the discussion of the avatars and their abodes. So with this, we conclude this chapter of Manvantara and Yugavataras. So this is end of chapter 4. And chapter 5 is again very beautiful. This is the biggest, longest chapter. It has got, I think, more than 700 or 600 verses. It's the largest chapter. I think 540 slokas. 540 slokas is, I don't know how long this chapter will take, but we'll attempt. So this chapter is a very beautiful chapter. This explains about the glories of the Supreme Lord in his Swayam Bhagavan, Swayam Rupa form. So again, we'll discuss about that in coming classes. So this chapter entitled Para Avastha and Swayam Bhagavan. What is Paravastha? Paravastha is a supreme state. Para Avastha. Avastha means a state, supreme state of the Lord and Swayam Bhagavan. What is the supreme state of the Lord and what is Swayam Bhagavan? Of course, Swayam Bhagavan we all know is the Lord by himself. So his glories we are going to discuss in chapter 5 from the next class onwards. So do you have any questions and comments before we end the session today?
One question. Prabhu, total of the Vaikunta, how many Vaikuntas there? I was reading some of the Bhagavatam's coming telling 24th Vaikunta is there. So how many Vaikunta it was there in the after that in the Braja, the top of it?
you are talking about Vaikuntha planets in spiritual world.
Yes.
In Vaikuntha, the Vaikuntha planet, different abodes, there are innumerable.
Oh.
Innumerable.
There is no quantity.
No, there is no number of Vaikuntha planets. Because if you remember that Goloka seminar which we took some time back, a couple of years ago, so there it is explained that Lord incarnations, actually Lord incarnations are innumerable. We can't count the Lord incarnations. So we can't say that Lord Varaha and Narsinga is adjusting in one Vaikuntha planet. No, it's not like that. Each one has got their own abode. There's no bunk beds where the Lord is occupying one incarnation, taking one place, one bed, another incarnation, another bed. Each incarnation has their own abode, and number of incarnations are innumerable. They are like bubbles in the ocean. So it is very difficult to comprehend or understand for us. So accordingly, his abodes are also innumerable. So Bhagavatam has given a count of his incarnations. That is not all in all. There are only few of them. Most prominent ones is described in Srimad Bhagavatam. They are not the only abodes, Prabhu. There are so many abodes are there.
Okay, thank you.
Can you give few examples where few of the incarnations don't have their own planets? You mentioned just
Mohini Avatar.
okay, nice.
Mohini Avatar is the one which doesn't have abode, and Kalki incarnation also don't have. Most of the Avesh incarnations, they don't have the. Not most of all the Avesh incarnations, they don't have abodes in, because they're all empowered incarnation, and some of the other incarnations also, like Mohini is one which is explained in the Shastra that they don't have. This point we discussed in the previous chapter, Lila Avataras chapter. So some of the incarnations, like Mohini incarnation, they don't have abodes in the spiritual world.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Even like Prabhu Virat Rupa, that also you can say no abode.
Virat Rupa actually is not incarnation, Mataji.
It's a
Yeah,
material.
It is a form. This form is not available in the spiritual world.
yes.
So it is not incarnation. Mohini Avatar is incarnation, but they don't have. She don't have abode. Whereas Virat Rupa is not incarnation. It is only a purely material form of the Lord.
There are Vaikunthas even in the material world, Prabhu?
That's what we discussed. No, all these abodes where Trivikrama is constructed. So that is all those things are considered to be Vaikunthas, because Lord is residing there.
Okay.
And Dhruva planet is also considered. Prabhupada said it is also a Vaikuntha planet. This is where even Brahmaloka is sometimes considered as Vaikuntha, because Lord Brahma is worshipping directly Garbhodaksha Vishnu in his original form. It is explained somewhere, I don't remember, that Garbhodaksha Vishnu, whether he is always there in the bottom and the lotus is sprout from his navel and it remains forever. No, actually it is explained somewhere, I have to take it out, that once the whole creation, everything is finishes, so he will not be in the same form, and the lotus sprout will not be there, the stem will not be there like that. So Brahma will be there in his abode, and he will be personally worshipping Garbhodaksha Vishnu. This is explained even in Bhagavatamrta also, that Garbhodaksha Vishnu's presence there in Satyaloka. So that also is considered to be a Vaikuntha planet, because Garbhodaksha Vishnu's presence is there. So Lord is worshipping Garbhodaksha Vishnu directly. So wherever Lord is residing, there are Vaikuntha planets in this, even this material. But these Vaikuntha planets are said, except Dhruvaloka is what Prabhupada explained, that this planet never annihilates. So no reference was given about other Vaikuntha planets, whether annihilation, about annihilation.
Okay, thank you.
But most probably they will not annihilate, but they will kind of unmanifest. So it is not annihilation. So Lord manifests his form and the abode also, And when his particular Leela is unmanifested from this material world, he unmanifests all his Vaikuntha planets also from this material world, and he will go back. That is how we need to understand.
So, Prabhu, you mean to say when our material universe annihilates, that time Lord also means what about that time? What about the
Mataji,
Lord?
see, Mataji, if you remember when we are discussing about Purushavasaras, whether these Purushavasaras will remain after annihilation takes place?
No,
Remain, no?
no, it didn't remain. I think.
See,
You told-
Kshirodaksha Vishnu will be there. Sorry, Karnadaksha Vishnu will be there because all the jivas will go back to him to enter his body. Garbhodaksha Vishnu and Kshirodaksha Vishnu, whether will remain or not, is so it is explained that when nothing is, no creation is happening in this material world, Lord will unmanifest all his incarnations and abodes, and he will manifest again back when the creation starts. And when during the mini devastation, the night of Brahma, so in the night of Brahma, where all the jivas will go? Can someone say? Because when Brahma's 100 years span is finished, all the jivas will enter into, including Brahma, they will enter into the body of Karnadaksha Vishnu. But in the night of Brahma, so there is again partial devastation takes place. So where the jivas will go? Whose body they will enter? Anybody knows?
Vishnu?
Anybody else? I'm not saying right or wrong, but anybody else?
It will be also in the stable mode, Prabhu. There is no any
Where?
action like
Where?
this I was reading.
They can't be stable mode in the
night in the night time.
Which
There is no
place?
any activity like this.
At which place they can't be floating around. Which place they will be? Anangamatar is right. All jivas during the night of Brahma, they enter Garbhodaksha Vishnu. Garbhodaksha Vishnu is there. So Brahma is sleeping. They enter into Garbhodaksha Vishnu's body. And at the end of Brahma's lifespan, they enter into Karnadaksha Vishnu's body.
Oh,
I have one doubt. In this the pralayam time, this all it is going to there in the Mahapralayam time. Then how this acted about the where will be there in the Karvodaya Vishnu? It is goes to all the Karvodaya Vishnu. All it is going to in the pralayam Mahapralayam time. So where will be live?
Prabhu, that's what I said. No, Mahapralayam time, all these Purusha incarnations will be unmanifested. Unmanifested. So they will see how they will come out, and the same way they will go back. They will unmanifest, and Karnadaksha Vishnu they will be there, and in his body all the jivas will be there. So when creation starts from Karnadaksha Vishnu, again Garbhodaksha Vishnu will come. From there again Kshirodaksha Vishnu will come. That is, it's not that they are leaving the body or anything. They are unmanifesting their, because they. What is the role of this Karana, Garbha, and Kshira Vishnus? The role is only to maintain this material world. When the material world itself, when nothing is happening, there is no need of their presence. So they unmanifest and go back to Karana Vishnu, and all the jivas will be there in his body, and Karana Vishnu will manifest, will expand again. The Garbha Vishnu and Kshira Vishnu, they are not entering into body of Karanaksha Vishnu like jivas. So they are unmanifesting their Leela.
okay.
So how Karana Vishnu is expanding, the expansion will go back. That's all. So it is not like jivas. We can't compare ourselves with the Garbhodaksha Vishnu. That okay, we are also like unmanifesting. No, ours is not unmanifest. We are going into very sleep mode. We are going into the body in sleep mode. Whereas Garbha Vishnu and Kshira Vishnu, it is a kind of unmanifestation of their expansion. They go back, and again the expansion happens. Again, Purushavasaras will. Otherwise, the Purushavasaras there is no role. Imagine a situation where there is no material world creation. The beginning of, we don't know when that beginning happened, but beginning of the creation, we discussed that how all the Chaturvya expansions, and then how Karna Vishnu expanded and Garbha Vishnu expanded. So that stage, even there is no Karana Vishnu. So when creation started, the very beginning the creation started, he expands into Karana Vishnu expands into Garbha Vishnu, and then Shira Vishnu. But since then, there is only whenever unmanifest happens, they will all the jivas will go back to enter into body of Karana Vishnu. Other incarnations will unmanifest, and they'll manifest again when the incarnation, when creation starts.
So when this the Prakriti was created, when again to coming the middle one, they will come automatically that all the.
Who creates the Prakriti, Prabhu? Who creates Prakriti? Who creates Prakriti? Material nature.
Sorry.
Who creates the Prakriti?
Prakriti. The Lord Krishna.
Material nature.
Supreme Lord glances over material nature.
Yeah. So that material nature again is a shadow of Rama Devi. So again, we'll go back to the same old story. So how from there again creation starts, and jivas will enter through his eyes into the womb, and she will allot. Okay, you go to this universe, you go to this universe. So again, that allotment happens, and then they go to different universes, and then the whole story starts.
Prabhu, today we saw that in Patala Loka also Lord's incarnations are there. So
Lord's
when the
incarnations, Lord's abodes are there.
Yeah, means Lord's abodes are there. So when that Patala Loka annihilate, what about that abode and that incarnation?
That's what I said, Mataji. All these abodes, as I understand, will be unmanifested. They're not destroyed.
Okay.
They're all unmanifested, and incarnations will also be unmanifested. They will go back to their original position. Because most of all these incarnations, they have their own abodes in the spiritual world also. Any questions? Any more questions or comments? Will we stop here? Yes, Mataji.
Very interesting to learn all this, Prabhu.
Yes, Mataji. You can understand how much pain Rupa Goswami has taken and our acharyas have taken to collect all this information from different scriptures and giving to us. Somebody may say why we need to read all this, but as a preachers, we should have basic understanding of. We don't have to like Vishuddha Purana. We don't have to read, because that is only to understand why, how. We don't need to at least know as a basic information to know that okay, Lord's abodes are there in different places and what kind of incarnations they are, what kind of expansions they are. And the next chapter is going to be even more interesting. Very beautiful chapter. Very long, very beautiful chapter.
So Prabhu, in these abodes, who are any inhabitants are there who are worshipping that particular type of incarnation?
Yes. All when Lord abode is there, Lord is residing. There are many residents of that particular universe, a particular planet, residing or worshipping the Lord. Like Lord, when he resides in Swargaloka as Vaman Dev, so Indra was worshipping him. We saw in Bhagavatamrta also.
A few days back, I think in Banu Maharaj, in one lecture, there was such kind of a question. So Banu Maharaj said, each incarnation will have their own devotees. Otherwise, everybody will be in Goloka, and all the other Vaikuntha planets will be empty.
Very, very true. That is why we can understand now why there are abodes even the spiritual world also for all this, because each has their own devotees. There are some forms. There are many devotees are worshipping in particular form of the Lord. Like Nrsimhadev has got a form, Varaha has got a abode. All these are got abodes even in the spiritual world. So there is a lot of residents even this material world. They are worshipping him, and in the spiritual world also they are worshipping him. The particular form.
And Prabhu, any purpose is written? What is the purpose of this abode in this material world?
Mataji, you see, Lord, when he comes, some of the incarnations, they come and they go, and they don't have any other continuation of purpose. But some of the incarnations, they come and they do lila, and there are devotees worshipping in the particular form. So to give pleasure to those devotees, they reside in this material world. Like Gajendra's pastime, like Lord Hari, we discussed. There are, it is, if you remember in the previous chapters, we discussed that those who want to get rid of any problems in this, or what is it, obstacles in this material world, they worship the form of Lord Hari, who saved Gajendra. So for such people, Lord is residing in this material. It's not that every day he is doing that same pastime, but for such people, because there are some, as Jashna Mataji also told, there are some devotees who are worshipping that particular form of the Lord, even this material world also. For their purpose, the Lord is residing in this. Okay, Mataji, will we
Yes.
stop session here?
Yes.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Will we stop, Mataji?
Yeah, okay, Prabhu.
If there are no more questions, we'll stop the discussion here. We'll continue our chapter 5 a week after.
Hare Krishna.